Here we are. All right, awesome. We are live and we are talking about how secure are your phones. And the first little topic I have on here, we only have two, which is more secure, guys? Landlines or voice over IP, which is our internet phones? Do you have an opinion?
I think the adage that if the bad guys want something, they're gonna get what they want, regardless of what medium you're on. Yeah.
If it's not secure.
But they both have their pros and cons. Traditional POTS line is susceptible to tapping, wiretapping. We're all very familiar with all of that throughout history.
Actually, no. Can you explain? I think maybe some of our listeners don't really know what a POTS line is, and what you just said too. I'm like, I don't even know what you're saying.
Well,
say it in common terms.
Yeah. Well, traditional telephone service was provided through analog copper lines from the outside to the inside of your house.
This is the phone hanging on your wall.
Yep, your rotary phone, your old phone. So it was all delivered through a copper cabling, and as such, a potential threat could tap into that copper cabling and essentially listen to the exact same call in real time. Many Hollywood movies, you've seen it 1,000 times. VoIP has a very similar detractor to. It is IP based, however, it is encrypted, so there's not the real-time capability of listening to it, but there are other threats because it is internet network related. There's a larger playing field. There's a lot more opportunity for that call to be intercepted. So companies like DS Tech or other MSPs who provide VoIP services do put in place a number of precautions to limit any potential threat with our services. So I guess to answer your question, come full circle, I think they're both fairly susceptible to threats, but the VoIP, the newer phone, is more secure because technology has evolved with it, whereas the analog, that hasn't evolved. That's still very rudimentary technology.
Okay, cool. And then we wanted to talk about the top threats to phone systems. So we have a couple of them over here. And
first, we also
go ahead.
I'll touch on one or two of them here quickly.
Yep.
Like everything else we've talked about when it comes to security, the top thing is strong passwords. The most common sense, basic, simplest thing. Right, Aaron? Yeah. Strong passwords.
Passwords are key. Any type of system you want it, at least have an 8-character password, capital letters, alphanumeric. VoIP systems, phone systems, very similar. They are devices that register on a network. So there's a login and a password. If you can correctly guess those, you can get into the phone.
I have a question then. Talking about passwords, I mean, are you talking about the password that I use to log into the software on the computer that goes with the phone system? right?
Both actually. Each
Or
device.
are you talking about like the administrator password to the system?
Both.
Both? Okay.
Mhm. The
I need to change mine.
right. um, Most of the VoIP phone systems, each device is registered on a network, very similar to a PC or a printer or tablet. That registration has a login and password to access that device. But to your point, the systems have an administrative portal that you can log into to make changes or updates, and that has a login password as well.
Okay.
So any password needs to be strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your voicemail password should be strong, right?
Because mine is not. Matter of fact, I'm not going to say. I'll have to change it. No. Anyway, I see some stuff on here like DOS attacks. What are those? That's
A
really
denial
noisy.
of service attack.
Denial of
Yeah.
service. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, there's a couple of different forms for the denial of service. I think the main one that most people think about is they can assault a phone system with many calls at one time. And what that does is it locks up the phone system. It hits it with so many simultaneous calls, there's not enough room for more calls to process. So imagine a public safety department or a fire department getting a denial of service attack, and they can't receive real phone calls or place phone calls themselves. So that can be a very big threat for first responders. But it's also very serious for other businesses too who rely on communications. That denial service can really cause some disruption for a long
Yeah.
period of time.
And it's not necessarily an attack that's going to like maliciously attack you as far as getting into your network and stealing your information or anything. It's more of it was originally used to bring down people's web pages. So if it brings your phone system down, it is not necessarily a security, but it is, still a malicious attack on your voice infrastructure.
I actually think they do it nowadays in like Twitter and blogging, where they post so many comments so quickly it breaks the comment blogging option.
Right.
Oh, interesting. Because that's listed right below that DOS. It says, actually, it says phishing or vishing. I've never heard of vishing.
Is that video phishing?
It says vishing is when attackers divert genuine calls to malicious actors who present themselves as the genuine party. No, I never heard of that. Okay, and then there's war dialing, which is a security attack that involves controlling the PBX or to scan other networks. You ever hear that one?
But not in those terms, but that is very common. If a bad agent gains control to a device on network, they can then use that device to start talking to or maybe even manipulating other devices on that network. Yep, that's very common.
Oh, that's crazy. And of course there's spam, which I've seen spam even on my cell phone a lot more lately.
Right.
But Google's pretty smart because when I swipe them aside, Google knows that it's spam and kind of marks it as spam and doesn't show it to me anymore.
Right.
But does that happen on our phone systems too?
We do see, we can get spam calls often. Phone systems have capabilities to start blocking stuff like that, and actually they're pretty smart. I don't want to say built-in artificial intelligence smart, but if the call has a caller ID that, maybe unavailable or some of these terms that we see where it kind of masks it, the phone system has a capability of actually blocking that. If it sees a caller ID for something like that, it'll block it up front. But then if there are multiple calls from, say, a similar number, we can go in there and say, any calls from 786-1234 block automatically, and it'll do that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I like how smart everything is. Okay, so next, we do have a couple of other things like malware, which surprises me because I'm like, I didn't know that malware, suppose if it's voice over IP, there's software that runs it, right? So, and it runs on a server. So I guess that's entirely possible if you don't have security in place to protect your servers and everything from malware, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
We should make here is there's two things you have to worry about. One is security, since you're on the internet, is letting people into your network to attack your servers and your network and get your, cryptoware, your crypto lock your data and blackmail you for money, right? That's one issue. And the other one that we've seen here, a former customer of ours had toll fraud where their phone switch that was inside their firewall, inside their network, was moved outside of their firewall. And what I guess if you want to call them hackers do is they got into that device and they just routed long distance phone calls through it. So if you recall back in the day when you called, if you called long distance from Michigan to California, somewhere along the way you were on someone else's phone lines, you were on Sprint or whoever, that came on your phone bill as a, part of your phone bill, you owed, an extra $3 for that 20-minute phone call because it went through some other long distance carrier. They're doing the same thing, except it's not on a long distance carrier. It's on your phone bill. So they ended up with a $1,400 addition to their phone bill for toll fraud, where these people they route, it's like you're calling long distance and you have to pay that bill.
Dang. So even on voice over IP though, because you don't really get charged for long distance, do you?
Well, yeah, because they're running it through, they're using your phone device to dial their phone numbers to go onto their system.
Yep.
And trust me, it's not in the United States, right?
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, interesting.
So someone you don't even know is calling from, and I'm just going to, calling from Russia to Italy, and they're going through your switch.
Yep.
Yep.
And they're not even making phone calls like, they're just setting up calls and letting them run. They're not necessarily, mom talking to dad or whatever.
Dang.
They're just racking up charges for you to pay.
Right. So this last little note I have on how to secure your phones, we're going to actually talk about that next week. So that'll be live at 11 on Thursday again, and come with your questions. Is there anything else you guys wanted to add about how secure voice over IP is?
Don't be turned off from voice over IP because, like Aaron said, they're all susceptible. So
right.
You can make yours secure.
We have a lot more tools in place to keep them secure, and that's always, like Aaron said, it's always evolving. So there are bad guys out there, but there are good guys that are keeping up with the bad guys too.
And knowing those threats allows you to put that security on your internal network, your data network as well.
Absolutely.
If anybody has any questions or is curious about learning more about voice over IP, certainly myself, DS Tech is a local resource, more than happy to help.
Yes. And if you just want to spy on us, get on our newsletter. And, I'm always sharing articles. Like every week, I send like 3 articles to you about various security threats and whatever. Sometimes it's just little tips on how to use your computer effectively, stuff like that. So there's all kinds of stuff in that newsletter, right? So spy on us on our newsletter, or get in touch with Aaron, or sign up for your cybersecurity
assessment.
Thank you. Assessment. So make it a great day, and we'll all see you next week, and we'll talk about how to secure those phones.
See ya, everyone.